All right, we're live for Fireside chat number 238. Sorry, running a couple minutes behind here, getting everything set up. Not too many announcements this time around, but a couple things to go over. Probably the biggest one, which you'll see in the announcements channel, is we have a new family NWA, a new family in House Dippity, which is the Hair Scare family, founded by Ulfald. Not new exactly, more returning actually, because the Hair Scare existed 10-ish odd years ago, 11. Um, and as Ulf mentioned several times, I said, hey, if you want to bring them back, that's fine, because generally something that we've tried to do, especially the last 5 to 6 years, is if a house or family is made, we try not to downsize or get rid of it. Um, it's kind of an interesting choice because one of the ideas is that, oh, if your house fails, so much, numbers shrink to a significant amount. It would shrink down to a minor house or maybe even a family and be absorbed into a different house. That's something that's happened in the past, and I mean, I understand the merits of that, but I also think there's benefits of the idea of permanence, and that if you do make a house, it's going to stick around. You don't have to be afraid that this is going to evaporate into thin air over the course of 6 months if there's just a total disaster. So I think there's pros and cons to each, but the idea or the method we've been using has generally been that if one of these families or houses is made, we try to keep it with as few exceptions as possible. So the Hair Scare are finally back, and I think fitting. Ulfald kind of picked both the Feast of Deutschland, who is sort of the patron founder, biggest hero of the Leitling family, from whom the Hair Scare descend, but also because Basketball has been doing a tremendous job, both in just general WA work, but particularly recruiting, bringing a lot of great recruits. Happy to see all the new faces. And since all of them are descended from Ulfald, they are all now part of that new Hair Scare family. So quite cool. Been working, kind of changing over, updating all the profiles and everything. I think that is done as far as I've seen. But if you see any kind of errors, somebody who's a lateling who should be a Hair Scare or anything um, along those lines, let me know. Uh, Beyond that, let's take a look here. Just a reminder, when you do post in event archives, we're asking people to ping, like at mention, everyone who attended the event and the host. I know this is a little annoying because in theory it pings people when maybe they don't want to get a ping. But hey, on the flip side, maybe it will encourage people to write these archives posts when the event is happening or right after it ends, rather than days or weeks later. They should really be done right afterwards, if at all possible. Regardless, though, the most important thing is that we do ask that you at mention or ping the names of the people who attended and yourself as the host. It just makes it way easier on Ulfold and his staff, who are tasked with tracking this stuff. Basically, as kind of a recap, we'd like to have the event archives just, I mean, for kind of a daily record of everything, events that are being held and things that we're doing for sort of history's sake. But more importantly, even for tracking how active and successful different games and platoons are for WA, tracking that people who are supposed to be hosting events are in fact hosting them, and tracking event attendance as well, because attending events is a prerequisite for being promoted to different ranks. So there's actually, I mean, it's very useful and quite important that we do this. And I would rather people post in event archives and forget to mention than not post there at all. But we are asking that people do that at mention system, pinging people, just because it makes it much easier to track, because we can just search for posts mentioning a certain person in event archives, rather than if we go through and look for names, people spell things differently. Sometimes there's typos. Some people use the special characters in people's names. Some people don't. So it becomes a lot more tedious to track that way. That's why we're asking for the pings. All right. I believe last thing is there's a new previously recruited role. So for those of you who are COs, moderators, you'll notice under the status tab. So if you look at somebody's roles, there's all these different kind of categories or subheadings in the list of roles. Among those is house, status, rank, miscellaneous, and so on. So quite high up in that list under status, there's active duty WA and Flame of the Ice here, which will be familiar to most of you. Previously recruited is a new role that's been added there, and its only purpose is for members who are recruited, so they go to the rank of recruit, but then they go inactive before reaching Marine. And not inactive for a day. I mean, this would probably be for a month or two or something along those lines without any LOA, any communication. They totally disappear off the face of the earth as far as we can tell. For those people, we then remove the typical WA roles they would have under recruit. So we remove Flame of the Ice here, active duty WA. We remove their recruit role. We remove their house and family roles. And then you give them the guest role, and we give them the previously recruited role. And this because in order to retain all those roles and be a reservist, like if you go inactive and you're a Marine or higher, you go to reservist. You keep almost all your roles. You just lose the active duty one, which just lets you see the roll call, because reservists obviously don't have to post in roll call. But you have to hit Marine to be eligible for that, to be able to go to reservist. So if you just hit recruit and then disappear, that means that you go back to guest, but you do get marked as previously recruited. So you get that role. There'll be a little raven, orange and black raven icon next to your name as well. That's the rank icon for that. So the idea here is that if you do return, you don't get recruited into a new house and family. If you return, when we know, okay, this person was recruited before, we do a quick search up. We just see who recruited you, and then you come back, we give you your house and family and everything back. It lets us know that you were recruited before, so we know to check and to give you the right house and family role if you do return. And as far as the justification for why doesn't everyone who gets recruited just go immediately to reservist if they go inactive, it's something we changed maybe 6-ish months ago, and I think the reason is, A, it's possible to just spam recruit a bunch of people, and even to the point of not actually recruiting them, like just posting their name in recruits. Like you got them to join the server, and then you post them in recruits, and then a CO is going to give them roles because they're going to assume you went through the actual process. And then let's say you do that with like a dozen people, okay, and then none of those people ever say anything or ever use the server ever again. Okay, so those people should go to reservist? I mean, it doesn't make that much sense. So I think the change is a good idea. And what it does is that it requires you to at least just get to Marine, which is pretty easy. I mean, it's very easy, but it does require that there's a few different ways to reach Marine. I mean, I can even go over those real quick as a reminder. So all Marines need to complete the Marine quiz, which is really simple. It's just, and all the rank quizzes are linked in clan ranks and duties as well. Anybody who's an NCO Plus member should also have the links because there is a document pinned in the command center that has all those links as well. But in About WA, under the clan ranks and duties section, there's a list of all ranks, all their duties, their requirements, links to all the rank quizzes, etc. So for Marine, the big thing you have to do is fill out the Marine quiz. What is the Marine quiz? It's really just your roll call. So it should be really easy for anybody that was actually recruited because it's just basically asking you to go through each section of your roll call. But it's a little bit different because you can't just have your recruiter spoon feed it to you and then you copy and paste what they wrote. I mean, you can have anybody help you with the Marine quiz. That's totally fine. But the idea behind it is it tries to explain what you're posting in the roll call, so you're not just copying a bunch of words and you don't even know what they mean. It's kind of asking you, okay, what is your house? What is your family? Who recruited you? When is your recruitment date? Because recruitment date's kind of something that we kind of pride ourselves on tracking. And I mean, unfortunately, some of the oldest members, we have actually lost their recruitment dates, which is a huge bummer. But we try to research them and guess them as best we can. It's just kind of the same way we track recruitment lineage quite carefully. It's just sort of part of our practice as far as, our big emphasis on history and lineage and tradition and such. So I digress a bit. You have to fill out the Marine quiz, and then there's a couple different ways to make Marine. So just do the quiz, and then either just be active at recruit for 2 or more weeks, or attend events twice, or demonstrate some significant interest in WA, or assist the clan in some way. So, or serve previously at Marine or higher or an equivalent rank. So if you were in WA before 2018, you return to active duty. We just give you Marine. In some cases, we may give you a slightly higher rank, like Gunner or Master Gunner. If, for example, you were previously a very high-ranking officer or something like that. Obviously, we know you're not just a regular old Marine. You're an important veteran member, so we give you a higher rank. And you can still move up the ranks, of course, but generally speaking, those are the different ways to reach Marine. So attending events twice, I mean, you could do that in a day, technically, if you do it. Significant interest in WA might be jumping in and asking a ton of questions about the clan's history, or maybe about your house or your family, talking a lot in house chat. This is the kind of thing that, again, could take place over just a day or two, but basically it's kind of somebody showing up and sort of geeking out about the whole thing or showcasing that passion and interest a lot, rather than just, somebody is recruited and then they just instantly disappear. They don't really say anything in any channels. They don't show up in voice chat. They don't attend any events. They don't do anything. That would be the opposite, basically. Serving actively at recruit would just mean that you send some messages or something over the course of your first 2 weeks after being recruited. You don't just instantly, hide the server and never go back. You actually return, even if infrequently. That would count as serving actively. Assisting the clan in some way is, again, kind of more uncommon. I'm just going to reference Bassivald here because Bassivald joined and pretty quickly was demonstrating huge interest in WA, but also basically jumped in and said, what can I help with? This WA lineage record. You're trying to make this record of everyone who's ever been in the clan and who recruited them and some information like other names they went by. Oh, let me help out with that. Here, I added all these people. Can I look at the forums? Let me take a look at, jumping in and instantly trying to help out with this big project. So that kind of thing is assisting the clan in some way. Yeah, so obviously any of those would qualify you for Marine. We're not trying to, make this extremely difficult to achieve. We're basically just asking that you demonstrate some basic level of interest in the clan or the server for the time being, at a minimum. So hopefully that sheds some light on kind of how Marine works. So if you get to that point, Marine, which again shouldn't be too hard to do for anybody who even slightly cares about it, then you're basically in WA, forever. You have the Flame of the Ice Seer role, you have your house role, your family role, everything. You're a full-fledged member, and yes, if you go inactive, you'll be moved to reservist, but that doesn't really remove anything. It just means we won't be checking your activity every month. You're not going to be getting, promoted up the ranks or anything. You lose out on some stuff like being able to participate in WA game giveaways, some of our traditions like House Wars and stuff like that. So there's some cool perks that you're going to miss out on, but you're not going to be carved out of the server and lose your access or anything like that. And if you do want to return to active duty at any time, which we encourage everybody to do, you can. As to, now this is kind of all, I think, I kind of went on a tangent here based off of why we added the fact that you have to reach Marine to be eligible for reservist. But I think that pretty well explains it, in that we are trying to ensure that people who do get moved to reservist are people who are actually recruited and demonstrate some basic interest in WA, even if they go inactive or circumstances or whatever. I mean, past members from before who return always get reservist, as long as they're in good standing with the clan, which is 99.99% of people. Yeah, so hopefully that kind of sheds some light on how that works. And again, just a recap, the change here is we've just added a role called previously recruited. So if you're a guest, you get recruited into the clan, but you go inactive immediately, you never hit Marine. You might get moved back to guest, but if you are, you're going to get the previously recruited role. So NCOs, COs, if you demote someone to guest from recruit, make sure you give them the previously recruited role. You can remove everything else. I mean, don't remove their game roles or anything, but you can remove, Flame of the Ice, their active duty, their rank, etc. Just give them guest and give them previously recruited. Worst case scenario, like I said in Command Center, we can probably track it and figure it out, but the idea is we don't want to make a mistake and have somebody be recruited again into a different house, and then all of a sudden we discover months later, oh, actually they're supposed to be in this house. Just creates this whole lineage fiasco. So that's something that we are trying to avoid. Double check. I think that was it. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I'll be around for office hours shortly.